With the, I guess, Lebanon, technically a ceasefire deal already being in place for about 2 days, uh, there are already things happening. Hezbollah is already breaking up the ceasefire. Israel is already claiming that they will retaliate if Hezbollah does break it in any way. So today we'll talk about it. And I already see some people in the chat sort of having problem with the title, which is Israel surrenders to Hezbollah. So today we'll also talk about why we think fundamentally that's exactly what this ceasefire deal is. Joining me today is Mark Pellegrino. Hey,
Okay.
and welcome to the Daily Objective. So before we go into anything, I just want to play a quick video to set this up. So yeah, Hezbollah people are celebrating. There's many more videos like that, many more people saying that that Hezbollah has won this war. And while most of it is 100% propaganda, I mean that's what it's just supposed to put up the face. If you look at the facts, it's sort of clear that Hezbollah has been devastated. But as much as I dislike to, I think they're right in some way. I think the fact that Hezbollah was able to survive this and is able to continue existing and possibly continue threatening Israel in the future or any uh, Western powers, Western civilization, essentially, they are happy for it. Mark, what do you think?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there should be only two or three goals to this war. That is the absolute annihilation of Hamas and their complete and total surrender, and the absolute annihilation of Hezbollah and their complete and total surrender, and Iran and its complete and total surrender. And if you have to occupy Iran and force democratic norms down their throats, the way we did in Japan with MacArthur as military governor of Japan, well, so be it. This is what has to be done in order to keep the peace. Islamic jihadis have been an enemy of Western civilization for decades, and Hezbollah has been at war with the United States. Iran has been at war since 1979, but Hezbollah certainly since 82, and when they killed over 200 American Marines. And so we have every right and reason to go in and make sure that these people are not breathing anymore, so that civilized human beings and rational society can go on and prosper. We don't need jihadist maniacs in our midst. We're not a compassionate and kind society by allowing these people to survive. When I saw that video, I thought, my kingdom for a guided missile, right there. You take out you take them out, because that's what that's the law that they live by and die by.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, it's hard to, and many people are sort of like even celebrating this ceasefire, saying, I mean, even just, I think, I'm not sure if it happened today or yesterday, but I've seen a message on the official IDF X page and also some reports about it that IDF said they've destroyed the most strategic Hezbollah missile production site. Then I've seen, I think it was just a random tweet, but I think it summarized it pretty well. Someone has said that Hezbollah has been embarrassed and crippled by pagers. Their leadership is gone. Their tunnel network is decimated. Their rocket supply is depleted. Hezbollah is begging for ceasefire. And now the IDF have crossed the Litani River. And, with almost every of this point, it's like, embarrassed and crippled by pagers, but they haven't been obliterated. They are still existing. Leadership is gone. It's not gone. It's just been replaced. You've killed some people, which, all great things. You've killed some people, and the different one replaced them. I think we've covered every single replacement. I think there were about four. Their tunnel network decimated. Well, decimated means 1/10, so there is still a lot of it left. With rocket supply depleted, you can get more. I mean, it's not like Hezbollah just had like this one time sort of supply of rockets and now they're never gonna have it again. And yeah, about Hezbollah begging for ceasefire. Well, Hamas has also, in some ways, have been begging for ceasefire. Why? And not to mention all the Western people in the West begging for Hamas to have a ceasefire. I mean, why do you think they want a ceasefire? Mark, why do you think a terrorist group who is currently being overwhelmed would want a ceasefire?
Well, look, first of all, I want to say that I would go even further and say Iran has been exposed as a paper tiger. Yes, they've been exposed and humiliated in the Middle East and around the world. What people thought was there is not really there, and that is a good thing. It's profound, but it's not the end of the conflict. Look, with respect to the ceasefires, they say the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different result. Israel has been seeking ceasefires with its Arab enemies since 1947 and has achieved the same thing every time, which is simply a regroup and retrenchment of the enemy and more violence. I think the Palestinian Arab community and the terrorist jihadists have realized that all they need to do is provoke Israel enough to make a substantial enough response to get world opinion against them, and then they can simply regroup, retrench, and continue to violate the rights of Israelis and continue to press their case, knowing that time is essentially on their side. Everything's finite. There's only so long an altruist governed state like Israel could continue economically and with under the circumstances that it's under, prolonging this conflict into a decades-long ordeal that it doesn't have to be. They just have to. They would be dealing with world scorn under an altruist ethical umbrella, and they can't seem to deal with that. That's what's causing the waste in personnel and the economic destruction of Israel at the moment. They just don't have the moral willingness to take out the enemy hard and fast and unapologetically. And in this case, since America technically has been at war with Iran since '79, America should have completely backed them up, should have wiped out the Houthis, should have taken out Hezbollah hard, and started going after Iran's oil distribution capacity and nuclear facilities, weapons making facilities, and their Praetorian Guard.
Yeah, I mean, whenever we talk about this, there's always, well, I don't like to separate practicality from morality, sort of, but there is a right thing to do when it comes to Hezbollah and sort of like what Israel can practically accomplish. And when it came to Hezbollah, well, when it came to Hamas, it was always clear. Israel can completely destroy Hamas with pretty much, I don't want to say no problems, but with no, like, let's say, big problems, with no great loss of life. It was always capable of it. It was always just a moral issue that the West just wouldn't morally support, and Israel wouldn't morally sort of stand by it morally. But when it came to Hezbollah, it was always also that, and that was even bit, from my understanding, among the sort of high Israeli officials that Hezbollah is bigger. They have a lot of missiles. They are more prepared for this. They have been pretty much getting ready for I mean 20 years. And the accomplishment of the, and you could extend that to Russia and Iran. Iran is here, it's problematic. Russia is this, like, supposedly the second biggest sort of like army, the second strongest army in the world. And when we've seen them on the battlefield, they are weak. They are completely pointless. And it might be surprising for some, but it shouldn't be surprising for objectivists. I mean, evil is impotent. Evil is incapable because of their mysticism, because of their denial of reason. They cannot function as a proper Western sort of individual respecting nation, and that's why it's so disappointing. As you said, that America is not helping with Iran. Israel was capable to completely destroy Iran's defenses in just a day or so, just like that. They have like no way to defend themselves. Similarly with Russia, it tried to. The goal was to conquer Ukraine in 3 days. It's coming on to 3 years because again they are so incapable. Yet there still isn't this willingness to actually end this in any way. And you could draw parallels between the Second World War. Imagine if 5 kilometers before Berlin, we just said, yeah, you know what? No, let's just have a ceasefire. Let's not take it too far. Let's not be too big. And in a sense, we've seen that. We've seen the because we were helping Soviet Union at the same time, because we were not willing to do anything about Soviet Union. We've seen what happened in the next 50 years and how much problem that brought us. So, Mark, what do you think about why is the West just not willing to really maybe not specifically fight evil, but finish evil?
Well, I think because altruism is the dominant moral philosophy of the West, it's very difficult for them to justify killing in their own defense and doing so unapologetically, especially if the enemy is perceived as weak, like Hamas, or the victims of some form of the victims of power stronger than them. The victim status of the Palestinians gives them automatic moral sanction uh, to the West, in a sense, through altruism. And the very strength itself of the United States and Israel counts against them morally. And it's incumbent upon them as a civilized power to restrain their strength and to not wreak the kind of damage that they could on these smaller, evil societies. I think that's a very self-destructive course to take, and I think history has demonstrated that it's a self-destructive course. Israel has been allowing ceasefires to happen since 1947, and it's always been the same result. An enemy that comes back at them and with more murderous intentions for decades upon decades upon decades. This has essentially been a 70 plus year war with Arab fundamentalist religious maniacs and nationalists. And it could have ended in 3 months, to be honest with you, with a strong showing from Israel, a strong and unapologetic showing from America. It could have been over quite decisively, and that would have sent a message to other evil powers out there skulking around in the shadows, waiting to take advantage of our altruist ethics and turn us on our heads morally and confuse us so that we are morally paralyzed. It would have sent a message to China, would have sent a message to Russia, and I guarantee you they would be running for the hills.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, I really like to watch Brian Macbeth, and he always talks about how Ukraine war is not really about Ukraine; it's about Taiwan. Basically, saying that China is looking uh, how the West deals with its enemies, how the West deals with its allies, how much it helps them, and because that has been the goal of China. It's to conquer Iran, and it's all it's all connected. But sort of going back to Israel, someone in the chat earlier said, "Stop being so negative" or something along those lines. I'm not sure if he meant it specifically with us or someone else in the chat. But I think there is definitely this sentiment that we might be sort of like being too negative. I mean, at the end of the day, Hezbollah has been pretty much almost wiped out when it comes to staying in Lebanon. So why is that not a cause for celebration? And in some ways it is. We've had celebratory episodes about the pager attack, about the killing of Hassan Nasrallah, and also about the killing of his replacement and his replacement and then his replacement. But the big problem is we are sort of like thinking long term, looking into the future. And the fact that Hezbollah has survived this, the fact that Hezbollah, again, you because if you are celebrating sort of this as a destruction of Hezbollah, you are relying that UNIFIL and that the international organization will keep Hezbollah out of the south, which again, them being in the south is not it's a big issue, but it's not the biggest issue. I mean, it's not like Hezbollah wouldn't be able to attack Israel or Israeli people if magically, if they are north of the Litani River, they cannot do any harm to Israel. They would still be able to arm through Syria. They would still be able to build up. They still are part of Lebanon. They are in the Lebanese government. Lebanon is fully bought in with Hezbollah. They are helping them in any way they can. They consider them part of themselves. Lebanon, in a sense, is the true enemy that Israel has not recognized as one. And that's what's scary. It's not that yeah, it's the fact that this will continue. This, as you said, it will be a perpetual conflict. Like we destroy them a bit, then they'll only like mildly attack Israel for some time until there is a big attack, and then again Israel has to respond something. It's like a 20-year cycle where you have a new big conflict, and many innocent people die in the meantime because there is no moral clarity when it comes to this issue,
Yeah,
right?
unconditional surrender is a very important milestone for Israel to reach with Hezbollah and Hamas and Iran. It's a very important milestone for the West to reach because it means that the jihadis are giving up their conditions for living, which for them are the expansion of Islamic jihad across the globe and the expansion of this Arab dominance through the region and hegemony over Israel. That means they are giving it up and subordinating themselves to other conditions, which in this case are the civil ones of liberty and democratic institutions. So it's very important that we reach that milestone and don't take anything less as a victory. But we can't overstate how Hezbollah has been exposed and how Iran has been exposed. This is all true, but now we have to press the advantage and not let them sit back and try to turn this into some kind of PR victory.
Yeah, and even if you let's say you think Hezbollah is in a sense gone, that they will not return, so you might say, well, this ceasefire is good, or that Israel can just come back to this in the 60 days when the time runs out, and when maybe Trump comes back in and he would be more willing to do something about Lebanon, which I mean, I doubt, but let's say you have that view. As soon as the ceasefire went through, people are saying, well, what about Gaza now? Well, can we have a ceasefire there? I mean, Israel has no longer a problem in the north, so we can have a ceasefire in the south. And I keep seeing more and more of this. Basically, people saying, well, that this is gone, this is done. Israel, you've destroyed Hezbollah, you've destroyed Iran. I mean, you can be happy. You can just have a ceasefire now in Gaza, and it's all gonna be good. But uh, it's the same problem. Like, what does a ceasefire when it comes to Gaza mean? It would include a preservation of Hamas. There is no way you could have a ceasefire when a part of it will be that, for one, you don't release any of the Palestinian prisoners, any of the terrorists. If there is any ceasefire deal, meaning a deal for hostages, Israel would have to release terrorists who have committed October 7th. There is no way around it, which would mean, and it would also include preservation of Hamas in some way, in some form. Or even if it meant somehow kicking out Hamas, it would mean that you're just going to return it to the Palestinian Authority, which again, they are also doing terrorist attacks. It's not like you have Hamas here, the terrorist part, and you have Fatah, which are these peace-loving Palestinians who just want to assimilate, or not assimilate, because they are technically like a separate entity, but they just want to live peacefully with Israel. All these, as I've said, all these are connected. Mark, what do you think about the connection between has sort of the North ceasefire and now the Gaza ceasefire?
Yeah, there is a connection. I think the South will see the ceasefire as a form of weakness, and they'll try to capitalize on it as best as they can. I mean, Hamas should not be negotiated with at all. I mean, I think Iran said it best when he said we have to, attempt to free the hostages, but fight as if they're already dead. I mean, there's no other way around it. And it's not the Israelis that are making this conflict ugly. It's the Palestinian people who refuse to surrender. It's Hamas who refuses to surrender. It's the Arab state in Lebanon that allies itself with Hezbollah in some way, and it's Iran. It's them. It's the evil folks who are making it ugly, and us in the West have to acclimate ourselves to the truth that war is hell. It's an ugly business, and we have been forced into it, and have no choice if we want to survive, but to execute it with absolute moral firmness and I hate to say this word, but cruelty, meaning we just have to finish the job with unconditional surrender as the goal. Now, that sounds brutal to people nowadays, but the alternative is forever wars, and we've been in forever wars since 1950. Once we tried to make the uncivil process of war civil and try to apply law when people have rejected law by war, uh, then and drew up the concept of war criminal as opposed to war itself being a crime, and the initiation of violence against another state being the crime. It's and additional terrors upon innocent people, of course, can be charges war crimes, but it's trying to decriminalize and civilize war is a bizarre concept to me, and I think it's the reason for the moral confusion that people feel today.
Yeah, I mean, uh, sort of just doing a comparison. When I was younger, I maybe I'm not necessarily sure if I like had depressions, but I had like periods of like really bad sort of scenarios. And when I sort of discovered objectivism and a specific part about basically, it's a choice between life and death. If you want to live, there are certain things you sort of have to do it. It's not like a moral duty to do it, but it's basically, if then it's sort of like programming. If then basically, if you want to live, you have to do certain actions for it, and if not, the only alternative is death. There is no other way to look at it. And it's similar to when it comes to defending your own nation, defending the people in your nation. Do you want to live as a nation? Do you want your people to live, or do you want to die? And if you want to live, and you are faced with a war, there's only one way to do it, is to end it as quickly as possible and as decisively, so your people can live. And if you the only alternative is death, or a form of death, a form of compromise that will put you in this sort of like a almost like a limbo state of like you're not completely out yet, but you're basically just slowly compromising, you're slowly dying. And Israel, every time it has a ceasefire, every time it does compromise with Hamas, every time it compromises with Hezbollah, with Iran, it is basically, yeah, I think that's a good metaphor. It is in a limbo state, basically between life and death.
Yeah, absolutely. Compromising with these folks makes them stronger. They are unwavering in their moral conviction that they are right, and we are wavering in our conviction that we are right. Now they're prepared to die to the last man and have said it. Absolutely. Now that's not our fault. Should that happen, that's not our fault. We're not becoming savages because they've decided to make war on us until the last one of them goes. That's their fault, not ours. And it's a little difficult for me. Maybe somebody can explain it in the chat why that moral calculus is so fundamentally hard for people to understand. that the other side is making it ugly, not us, but that we have an obligation to defend civilization and innocent lives, real innocent lives, who are being tormented by these maniacs who hide behind civilians, many of whom, or a number of whom may be innocent. Their deaths are not our fault. The deaths are the fault of the people who place those people, those innocent folks in jeopardy. And we have to understand that. And if somebody can explain to me why that's not comprehensible, I'd welcome an explanation.
We have a super chat from Bonnie, thank you so much. A super chat from Jonathan, thank you so much. A super chat from Jeff, thank you so much. And a super chat from John, thank you. He says, Daniel, so glad you mentioned Ryan Macbeth's coverage regarding the US support of Ukraine. China is eagerly watching and aching to take Taiwan. Yeah, I think Ryan Macbeth, he was in the I'm not sure if U.S. Army or some other branch, but he works in intelligence and he is pretty good when it comes to sort of analysis of, I think, general war analysis. I mean, he covered even the attack on Iran before it happened. He tried to tackle the pager attack. So he's pretty good when it comes to like just like getting the information out. Sorry, we just have a few minutes left. So yeah, just sort of summarizing, I think sort of why, as someone said, we are being so negative about this ceasefire is that I think it is basically between life and death. It is between, do you want to actually do what is necessary to basically exist as a nation to actually destroy your enemies, or are you going to compromise on that? And I think Israel, when it decided to go on with the Lebanon ceasefire and potentially in the future accept some form of Gaza ceasefire, it is compromising again. And at some point, it will result in another October 7th like terrorist attack that will again bring force Israel into war that it might again not finish. So we are in this vicious cycle unless something changes. Mark,
Well,
any
I
last
think
words?
the thing that has to change is that Israel has to dump the altruist ethic that they owe something to these people because of their victim status in the world. They owe them nothing. They owe it to their own people to defend them with vigor. And with vigor means until the enemy surrenders completely. That's with vigor. To keep that ideology alive in that region is to keep a metastasizing tumor alive and act as if you've cured the patient. You have not. So long as the cancer exists, there's always the possibility that it will break out. And the Hamas, the leaders of Hamas, Iran, and Hezbollah have told us that they'll do this again and again and again and again. They've already told us this, and we have a history of ceasefires going back to 1947 that shows us that they mean what they say. So stop it. Hold yourselves as a value, as a primary value. And yes, it's okay to value them less than you, just like you value your children more than other children. It's sort of a natural requirement. And get on with the task of eliminating these bad guys from the world. Cut out the cancer man.
So we'll continue talking about well, this in some form on the reality show, but we'll talk about the Piers Morgan method, the illusion of neutrality. So make sure to join us for the reality show in just about a minute or so. Thank you, Mark, for joining me here. We'll
Thanks.
see you in just a bit. Bye bye.
Thank you.